Yes, sir. Welcome back to Talkin Nets, episode 62. I made sure I knew it that time. And this episode, I would hope for it to be a little bit quicker. I would hope for it to not be an hour. Not saying that I don't like when the episode goes an hour. That's, the average time for a podcast. But I think there's a few things to hit today and a few things not to waste too much time on. And obviously, there's much more important things going on in the world right now. So myself and Hudson will get right into it. But first, let me throw it to the co-host of Talkin Nets, Hudson Flynn. What's up, bro?
Man, not much. Just tired. A long night last night. Obviously, we're recording this on Wednesday, day after Election Day. Still counting up the votes. We still don't know what's going on. It was a late night for me. I didn't know when to go to bed. I knew they weren't going to call it last night, but I didn't know when to go to bed. I stayed up till about 2 a.m. and I was like, nah, this is too much. This is too much. Had to go to bed. And now I'm here to talk basketball. It's good to distract myself, but still definitely a stressful day all around.
I went into it last night thinking I was going to stay up till 2, but I was like, man, I got stuff to do in the morning. And I naturally fell asleep around like 11:30, 12. Watching the coverage, I think by, late last night, I just stuck with CNN. CBS I liked. I think I tweeted out like I'm watching every channel. I like the CBS graphics. ABC News ruined it with Chris Christie for me. MSNBC was doing a decent job, but CNN was killing it. I like the way that they were showing the path to victory, the probability. I like the way they were showing the states down to the counties. I was like, damn, some of these states got all red counties. It was eye-opening. It was at some points worrisome or like worrying, because it's like I'm looking at the results and I'm like, wow, this is painting a picture of America. This is actually showing us what's really good out here. Like, men lie, women lie, numbers don't. And I did a lot on my own personal Twitter as far as bashing Donald Trump and just trying to like let people know how I felt about the guy. I didn't talk too much policy. I didn't talk too much Democrat versus Republican. Me personally, I was just attacking his character. I was just going at the guy that he is. I don't think that guy deserves another term. And the way it's looking right now, he's not going to get another term. But, hey, nothing is signed, sealed, and delivered yet. They're still counting votes. And there's still a lot more to go until we can actually say Joe Biden won. But, man, like, this was the first election that I voted in, that I cared this much about. I watched all the coverage yesterday. I watched a lot more of it today, and I'm still on it now as we're recording Talkin Nets.
Yeah, it's obviously it's my first election. It's your first election that you're voting and you're really paying attention to. Hopefully, it's not our last election. That would be a tough look, if things flip that way. But there's some good things to take away from it. Obviously, we love talking about how our Brooklyn Nets are always staying active in the community. They were a polling place. They had a lot of people. They had lines around the block, but they had people there, helping them, giving them water, doing all this good stuff, making sure they were safe. So I love that. And I love the accidental. We're both repping #Brooklyn Strong. Both. It was funny. We came on the podcast wearing the same shirt completely on accident. No coordination there. But, as a country, we got to have that Brooklyn Strong mentality, because if we don't, man, things can look tough. But I'm trying to stay hopeful, and I'm excited to talk about some basketball and just to step away from watching the news for a couple minutes.
Yeah, shout out to the 10 people a week that watch our show on YouTube. They'll see the shirts that Hudson and I are wearing. These are Brooklyn Strong shirts that were sent to us by the Brooklyn Nets for the virtual fan seats. They came in like a package with also this. Let me see. And I mean, people on the podcast can't see, but for the viewers at home, they sent us like a box of popcorn. Nice little things to get ready for the virtual fan experience. Fast forward to today. I reach into my closet. I'm looking for something to throw on for Talkin Nets. I grabbed the Brooklyn Strong shirt. Great minds think alike. I guess Hudson had the same idea at some point today to wear the shirt. And then I also threw on the Talkin Nets headband. I got an official Talkin Nets headband made. So we're swagged up. And this is a Nets podcast, basketball podcast. It's time to talk about the basketball. and we'll get right into the segments. And the first one, this segment is what's new, NBA news. And the first bullet I put is really for Hudson, because last week Hudson spoke out about the Sixers and Daryl Morey. And so the first thing I put is, hey, James Harden, Sixers rumors. Of course, what did you expect? Daryl Morey doesn't even get to be there for a week. And now people are saying James Harden is going to go to Philadelphia. Did you read anything around this? Did you buy into this? Do you even care about this?
Damn, they can say whatever they want. It does not make it true. It is not gonna happen. The rumors are there only because of Daryl Morey. It's ridiculous. I don't know why there are these rumors. I mean, I know why, but it's just insane to think that people would actually see that happening. But even if it did, think about where the process has landed us. Joel Embiid, Ben Simmons, Tobias Harris, the loss of Jimmy Butler,
Al Horford.
Al Horford. And now they're going to trade it all away for James Harden. I don't know. I can't go in on them as hard as I did last week, because this isn't even them being stupid, anyone being stupid. It's mostly just sad. I'm starting to look at them the way I look at the Knicks. This is like a Knicks level type rumor where, like, remember when the Knicks were like, oh, we're going to get Donovan Mitchell?
Yeah.
This is that kind of energy. And that's not the right energy to have for a team that was in the playoffs, that should be competing. But I don't know. Sounds like they're still processing.
Philly and the Sixers. Philly actually right now has a chance to swing this election a little bit, depending on how Philadelphia's votes come in and how, the state goes blue or red. I think it's going to go red. I was actually in Philadelphia this past weekend and driving around. I saw a lot of Trump 2020 stuff. But back to the Sixers, Daryl Morey, James Harden. The first thought I had, I was like, would Harden do this? Would Harden leave like his franchise, the Houston Rockets, that he's been the man carried? He's over there with Russ. Would he leave Russ? And then I started thinking, who would they trade? Because putting Harden with Ben Simmons and Joel Embiid sounds good, but they would have to trade one of them. So would they trade Embiid? I don't think they're trading Embiid. I think they trade Ben Simmons, but I think this is just rumor mill talk. We are in the NBA fall, aka the NBA summer. This is what comes with it. I'm going to skip the next part of the notes to jump right to the Jrue Holiday talk, which is kind of talking Nets. I guess it could fall into what's Nets, but I don't think there's a shot that we ended up, making this move. So Jrue Holiday trade rumors started. I know you guys all follow Shams and saw his tweet where he put out today, the New Orleans Pelicans are openly discussing star Jrue Holiday in trade talks, and several contending teams are pursuing. We have heard this name in the Nets rumor mill for quite some time now. Last year, you all saw the heist that the Lakers were able to pull off with the Pelicans to get AD, and that took them to a championship. I'm going to assume if the Pelicans are trying to move Jrue Holiday, one of the best defenders in the league, arguably, one of the best players on their team, if not the best, if they're going to move that guy, they're going to be trying to get another heist. And for your Brooklyn Nets to bring him in, that would be taking away some key players like Jared Allen. That would be taking away a Spencer Dinwiddie. And I hate to say it, to get this done, they might need to move Karis LeVert, and I don't want to see that happening. Hudson, what were you thinking when you saw that this morning? I think we both tweeted from Talkin Nets.
Yeah, that was funny. We tweeted
like right at the same time.
In the same minute. In the same minute we sent out a tweet. But no, this is just your once weekly Nets trade update. It's interesting. At least we're staying in one place. I'm happy we haven't moved on to some other trade piece. I saw it was DeMar DeRozan a little bit over the weekend. And this is just what the Nets do. And, it's amplified. There's nothing else going on other than the election. And people are like, oh, what's going to happen in this NBA summer? And obviously, I'm not doubting Shams. I'm sure Jrue Holiday is looking for a move. He's at a point in his career where he's like, I want to compete now. I want to win now. I want to get a championship now. He's what, 31, 32? He's getting up there. So he's got to get something done ASAP. And I think that would be a good move for him to get traded. But, they're not clowns down there in NOLA. They know what they're doing. They're not going to let him go for nothing. They're going to let him go for a lot. And people keep throwing Karras out. They're throwing JA out. They're throwing Spence out. And I'm like, every time I see these trades, I'm like, hey, we're good. Like, we're fine.
Yeah, we're all right.
Like, the Nets they're fine. Like, I don't know. I can't point to a hole on their roster other than power forward, but I do absolutely expect the Nets to take a power forward in this draft. I know we're going to do some draft talk later. I just don't see it for the Nets. I mean, I get it. He's a good player. He's a great defensive presence, and in a backcourt that's kind of lacking some defense, if it's, going to be Kyrie, if it's going to be Spencer Dinwiddie, that's not exactly, NBA first team all defense. But I don't think we need that. I mean, I know that the defense is going to be our first concern. That's what Steve Nash went out and said. That's what Sean Marks is saying. And I can see why we would want this, but there's a certain point where you don't want to give up too much. You don't want to take away some of that fantastic depth that the Nets have, because when I look at them right now, I don't see a deeper team in the NBA than the Brooklyn Nets.
Yeah, I'm just like, I feel like Nets fans are thirsty for this, and this is a name that we have been talking about for a while, and there's still this hope looming, if the Nets can hire Steve Nash, Amari Stoudemire, Mike D'Antoni, are they not done? Are they still looking for players? And I think there's some thirsty fans out there hoping that, there's a third star coming. But I think this team as currently constructed is good. I don't think we land Jrue Holiday because I think the asking price is going to be too high for him. So, it was cool to see that out there today. But I think that's more product of, Stan Van Gundy, Trajan Langdon, David Griffin. I don't know. They're probably just trying to figure out what they can get or what they can do to improve the team around Zion moving forward, which is exactly what they should be doing. Like I said, it's the NBA summer. It's the NBA fall. And, we're all thirsty for basketball. We want basketball we want basketball to come back ASAP. And my guy, my Duke basketball guy, is another thirsty one. As soon as I saw this tweet, dude, I saw NBA Central tweet out. They said, Wendell Carter Jr. is starving. And it was just a screenshot of him tweeting at Justina Valentine. Check DM. And I was like, yo, this can't be real. This can't be real. This dude can't be this thirsty on the timeline. He wasn't. He came out and said it wasn't him. He said some weirdos hacked his Twitter. But I was cracking up laughing because obviously I'm a Duke fan. I don't know if everybody knows that, but I grew up rooting for Duke. So I knew Wendell Carter Jr. when he came up and when he went to Duke. Obviously, you guys know he plays for the Bulls now. And I actually used to be around Justina Valentine when I worked at MTV. I used to write all the tweets and all the social content for Nick Cannon's show Wild and Out, and she was on there. That's how she even became popular or famous. White girl, she's got her model thing going. She raps. But I just was cracking up at the thought of Wendell Carter Jr., who, how old is Wendell Carter Jr.? Under 25, probably like 23 or 24. Him shooting a shot at Justina Valentine live on Twitter. I think Justina Valentine's like 35, 36.
Wendell Carter Jr. is 21.
So he's shooting a shot at this chick. She's like 15 years older than him publicly. I'm like, something is off here. Something is wrong here. And it was. But it's just one of those things in like NBA Twitter in the offseason. It catches people's eyes and attention. It makes for good memes. I thought it was funny.
Nah, that's cap. I don't think he's lying. I do think he's lying. I think he shot his shot. I think he's thirsting on the timeline. I mean, we're not doing too much moving around these days. No one's going out to the club. No one's going out and meeting people. I could see him being thirsty on the timeline. I don't know if he's real thirsty. He said check DM 3 times. But, man, I don't know. His last tweet, he said, look, man, no disrespect to anyone, but come on now. It's a little excessive what was going on my Twitter. I'm not begging no man or woman to check the DM. How about y'all pay attention to this election? I don't know about that.
So
I don't know about
Saquon
that.
Barkley was also involved, and I guess there were some tweets where he sent them out to Saquon, and I mean, he could be thirsty for Saquon as well, but I think that was a little different request for him to check DMs. I don't know. Either way, it was something I came across. I'm like, hey, on Talkin Nets, we got to bring that up this week. I think that's pretty funny. All right, let's move on to the next segment. The next segment is what's Nets. So let's talk about some more like Nets-centered stuff. Mike D'Antoni got hired like right after we did last week's episode. I think that happens a lot just because we do like a midweek Wednesday episode and then news will break on like Thursday or Friday. I'm not sure exactly when the hire broke. I think it was Thursday or Friday, but we had already recorded. We weren't going to go back and record another one. We would just add it to this conversation. And, you know, I saw like Stephen A. Smith came out with something to say, but like Stephen A. Smith's job is to come out with something to say.
That's his whole brand. He
It
didn't even
literally doesn't matter. Like his thoughts only matter on ESPN in that hot moment. I really do like this hire for a few reasons. Obviously, it's Steve Nash's former head coach. So like the respect is there, the rapport is there, the relationship is there. This whole team is built on relationships. Sean Marks. There you go. That's just tie it all in. It all gets tied in together. Amari Stoudemire. So no, we're not going to turn into the 7 seconds or less Suns or a team that can't play defense. I saw a lot of people saying stupid shit like that, which is going to happen. What I look at it as is Steve Nash in his first year as head coach, having no head coaching experience and an NBA season that could potentially start in, I don't know, 8 weeks. If the season is starting that quickly, and you don't have that much time to prepare, get as much experience around you as you can get. And having a Jacques Vaughn and a Mike D'Antoni on our bench right next to Steve Nash, two guys with head coaching experience, obviously D'Antoni a lot more than Jacques Vaughn, but like having those guys as your two right-hand man, like, come on, he's set up for success. And I think it was another great hire. D'Antoni, humble enough to take an assistant coaching job, not set and trying to be a head coach. I think he's going to come in and be an assistant coach. I don't think he's going to try and, force anything or be the guy. I think he's got respect for Nash. He's got respect for Sean Marks, the whole organization. I love it. It's just another star. It's another big name. It's another basketball mind that is going to help us succeed in Brooklyn this year.
He's coming in to be the offensive coordinator.
Right, really.
He's not coming in to work on the defense. He's not coming in to work on developing a Jared Allen or something like that. He's coming in to be the offensive coordinator. And who else do you want for an offensive coordinator? Because if you look at him and you look at what happens when his players on his teams get buy-in and when he gets that, that commitment from his star, usually a star point guard, Kyrie Irving, they put up ridiculous numbers. And that is not predicated on them not playing defense. James Harden doesn't put up those points because he's bad on the defensive end. He puts up those points because he's fantastic and because he's in a great system to win, or at least he was. Think about what Kyrie's going to do. He's going to average 30 and 10 in his sleep. It's going to be ridiculous. And who else would you want coordinating your offense? We're building a dream team on the sidelines. Yeah. And not everyone is going to be that all-around guy. There are some players that are role players, that are a slot guy, and he fits in perfectly into the offensive slot. And why wouldn't you want that on such an amazing and diverse coaching staff with all these different types of talents and different types of people with different focuses? Why wouldn't you want that? Where is the downside? And I didn't even have a problem with what Stephen A. Smith said. He just said, who cares? And honestly, I am kind of on that boat. It's just more improvement. It's not something that you need to super read into. It's we brought in the top, one of, if not the top, one of the top offensive minds in basketball as an assistant coach to be an offensive coordinator. It's just a simple, nice, really good hire all around that I literally cannot find a problem with. And I honestly don't really think anyone else has found a problem with.
Yeah, to make a parallel to football, since we're in football season, nothing else is on. The Giants, Joe Judge, first-year coach, has an offensive coordinator with 10 years of experience as a head coach. So you hire an OC that has been on the sidelines as a head coach to run your offense. It's like you have two head coaches. Stephen A. Smith, I didn't really have problems with what he said either. I just didn't like how he said it. He basically was trying to say, like, yeah, he's lucky to get that job. I'll read the direct quote from Stephen A. Smith on First Take, which I literally try to never watch. He says, he's right where he belongs. He's an assistant coach, particularly for Steve Nash now. If anybody should hire him as an assistant, it's Steve Nash. They had great success together in Phoenix. They won 65% of their games. They went to a couple of conference championships, even though they never made it to the finals. And clearly, that was when Mike D'Antoni really made a name for himself, revolutionizing the game of basketball on the offensive side of the ball because of what he was able to do with their offense. So he's basically saying, you know, similar to like what Hudson said, like, you know, it's not a bad thing. And he's there to be the OC. And that's great. The respect is there. The relationship is there with Steve Nash. I'm all for it. Like I said, it just makes us stronger. And at the end of the day, these guys are coming to Brooklyn to win a championship. No one is sugarcoating it. No one is dancing around it. Last week we talked about the, you know, what they call it, town hall. And in the town hall, Steve Nash said, we're playing for a championship. Guys want to win, right? Guys just want to win and get rings. They just want to be at the top of the mountain at the end of the year, whether they're the head coach, whether they're the assistant, whether they're the star player, whether they're a bench player. Guys just want to win. It's a lot of time and effort and a commitment, especially these guys are going right back into it. You know, what makes it worth it is winning and winning a lot of games and winning the finals. So that's where we're trying to go with it. That's where I think we will get to. And I can't wait. I honestly, I'm so pumped. We saw last week that the Nets unveiled the new court to go along. Well, the old school classic edition court. It's a new court, but it has the colors, the light blue and the red of the old New Jersey Nets 90s look, and it matches the new throwback jerseys that we're getting. And I'm like, my first thought, I don't know about you, Hudson, was, hey, better than that gray court. That gray court threw me off. Like, I got it for last year. Maybe it was for the statement jerseys, those gray statement jerseys, which they can axe those too. But I'm like, give me that court over the gray court. And I guess we'll still have potentially the city edition court with the Coogee, or if they go to Basquiat, maybe it'll look something like that. But I love the fact that we're getting the jersey roots to shine through in Brooklyn. Finally, 2020, going into 2021. What do you think about the court design? Were you feeling that? I saw you posted it. I love it. I can't wait to see these guys actually play. Like it also was giving me like old like video game vibes from like the old school Nets.
Yeah, I loved it. I think it's a beautiful court. I would not go as far as to say, because I actually enjoy the gray court. I think it's pretty cool. I think it's different. I think that, you know, it shows, you know, some of, you know, how Brooklyn is trying to do different things. I also think it goes well with the jerseys. I enjoy it, and I certainly enjoy it more than like the almost orangey, you know, floorboards that we had before with like the hexbone pattern. That wasn't my favorite. So I enjoy what we have going on now, but I certainly enjoy this court with the light blue and the red. It's got the little like gradient transition on the baseline and on the sidelines. I think it looks amazing. I am so excited to see Katie and Kyrie wearing the all blue with their blue signature shoes. I mean, what more do you want? What more is there? Like, that's like, the Nets are going to be playing as one of the best teams with one of the best coaching staffs, with one of the best front offices, in the best alternate jerseys on the coolest court. What else do you want as a basketball fan?
It was all a dream, like straight up. Like whenever I see the like clouds and the light blue color, it just, I don't know, it's like a dream, like sky and like imagination. And this is greater than any of us ever imagined. I knew that they would eventually get some New Jersey vibes. I didn't know exactly how they would do it or how it would look, but I'm pleased with the Brooklyn Nets. And man, they gotta let us in the stadium, bro. Like, I know it's gonna be limited capacity, but I'm gonna do my best to figure out how to get into this Barclays Center, the arena, to see some of these games. Like, it's just been so long. Even with this election, I'm like, just get me a different guy in office that I think will get us closer to getting back to games. That's all I want. I want on the other side of this, us to be closer to going back to seeing sporting events. Like, is that a lot to ask for? I feel like it's not. And, we're getting closer to a lot of things with the NBA. Some decisions will be made very soon, and the NBA draft is lurking. I think Hudson and I are going to do a NBA draft episode. The NBA draft is that night that we would record, November 18th. It's a Wednesday. So maybe we'll do like our reaction. Maybe we'll do something like, around the actual draft. I would like to get the Talkin Knicks guys involved. Shout out to Talkin Knicks. Especially because there's some rumblings about one RJ Hampton. And that's the next topic in this segment, What's Nets. There's some rumblings about the Knicks looking at RJ Hampton, working him out, talking to him, and then also him being available for the Nets. Now, the Nets pick at number 19. The Knicks pick at number 8. That's a big difference in picks. Some people are saying RJ Hampton should not go as high as 8, so I don't think he'll end up with the Knicks. But some mock drafts have him going to us. He's also a Dallas kid. Like, he's from the Dallas area. I don't know if you guys know much about RJ Hampton. I almost called him RJ Barrett. RJ Hampton is a kid that went to New Zealand to play instead of going to college. And I read something, obviously, about Sean Marks, New Zealand. There's some ties there. And him being from Dallas and the Dallas Mavericks picking in front of us at 18, they might take him. But I also just saw today that the Mavericks are doing everything they can to shop that pick. So what are you thinking around RJ Hampton? You said, we're going to talk about the draft a little bit, which we're getting to. And, I think he's a guy that, like, from what I'm seeing, he could fit with this Nets team.
Honestly, I think it's different mentalities. It's different ways that the Nets could want to go at that pick. There's two schools that I think they could do. They could either go and take someone who can sit back and learn and that they think can develop into this, into a superstar, but is more of a developmental pick, give him that kind of Patrick Mahomes sitting behind, what's his name, Alex Smith kind of treatment for a season. Because when I look at him, obviously he was a 5-star recruit coming out of Texas. He went to New Zealand, but he didn't do much. He averaged 8 points. He shot 40% from the field, like a couple of rebounds, couple of assists, nothing exciting. What excites people is how long and athletic he is. He's a combo guard. He plays in the wing, and he has some Zach LaVine comps, which right. I think would be interesting. But think about if he develops into those comps, right? Then we just have Zach LaVine on this Nets team, and it doesn't fit, but it might fit in the future is what I'm thinking in terms of him. I think that it might be a stretch for the Nets to get him there, but if I'm being honest, I'm kind of cold on him because I like the other school of thought, which is we draft a 4 who can shoot for the 3, shoot from outside, because that is something that we can plug and play because we don't have someone in that spot. We have Taurean Prince, Mr. 1 of 15 from 3. Like we talk all this stuff about this Nets team, but who's going in at the 4? Do we put Joe Harris down at the 4 just to shoot threes? You can't. He's not big enough. What do you do? And I think there's a lot of great options of people that have that size, but can also drain threes at a high rate. And I think that's the kind of thing where you can look in and say, okay, he might be the final piece on this Nets team. He might be that final piece of the puzzle, and we get him without having to give anything up. And, maybe his ceiling isn't quite as high as, an RJ Hampton, someone who can fly out of the gym, but is small. He grew 3 inches this past year. He's not built. He's skinny, for lack of a better word. And I think he's someone that would be definitely interesting for the future. But to me, he's more of like a Clax pick. We took Clax, we sat him in the G League, we let him do his thing. We're hoping he might bulk up. We like that he has the 3 developing. We like all that stuff. But he's that kind of a player. He's not someone that's going to come on and make an immediate impact, from what I've seen from him, from what I've read about him. And I think that the Nets are obviously in win now mode, and there are players we can take at 19. Hopefully there are some that might even slip to 19 and be absolute gifts that the Nets can take and plug into that 4 spot, or even have backup Taurean Prince and eventually take his spot. That would be, to me, a much better selection.
Man, why don't they include Taurean Prince in any of these rumored trade talks, any of these
Yeah,
proposed
seriously.
trades? Put number 2 in there. Put Prince in there. Uh, I mean, obviously, you got to have some value. I don't think many people in the NBA are out there looking for him. I know when we signed him from Atlanta, I'm thinking he's going to be hitting threes, and that's not exactly how it went down. But with this kid, RJ Hampton, if he can play the 4, if he can play the wing, and potentially guard. They got him listed as a point guard, shooting guard. I think he's still like a project. He's developing a lot. You mentioned him growing, and the level of basketball that he played in New Zealand, stepping into a Nets team. I wouldn't consider him. I think he can fit with the team, but I wouldn't consider him as someone that we draft at 19 and expect to play or make an impact right away. Like, I don't know. There's so much to be seen, and none of us really have a clue. The draft is 2 weeks away from today. We'll cover it. We'll be on top of it. And, I mean, I'm looking forward to it. I think that the Nets also have what pick? 50 some.
58, 56, something like that. It's a later second round pick.
55, and they're saying
55.
Marcus Howard from Marquette
That would be fun.
might be the guy there.
I love me some Marcus Howard. That man is
2 years
is
ago,
a walking bucket.
2 years ago, it sucks we didn't get to see him this year, but 2 years ago he was cooking, and he was
him versus Ja, and
Yeah.
that's a classic NCAA tournament game. Man.
Yeah, he was getting a lot of attention last year, and we didn't get to really see. It's a whole nother dynamic this year. We didn't get March Madness. We didn't get to see. So I'm sure the Nets are working on it. I'm excited for the draft, and we'll get there soon. But now we got to talk about what's next. Looking ahead, tomorrow or Friday is supposed to be the vote. Shams put out a tweet basically saying that a Christmas week start is inevitable. I think everybody that's in the NBA, works in the NBA, fan of the NBA, around the NBA is starting to realize, hey, guys, it is what it is. If we want to get a 72-game season in, if we care about the Olympics, which I'm starting to like the Olympics, let me slow down. All right, so I'll read Shams' tweet. He writes that the NBPA will vote as soon as Thursday. This podcast comes out on Thursday, and he's speaking of this Thursday, November 5th. They're going to vote on the 72-game NBA season, which would start on December 22nd. And also in that proposal, it would end if the season was to start on the 22nd, 72 games, it would end. The regular season would end in May, and the finals would end July 22nd. The Olympics start July 23rd. I don't know what the plan is if these guys are going to play. You know, obviously all the guys wouldn't be in the finals, but you got to think about the whole landscape of the NBA and think about how many different countries these players come from. If they're playing a season, like a lot of these guys probably want to play for their home country, but might skip out on it if they're forced to go from the bubble right into another season. So the other thing that was on the table, and we talked about this maybe 2-3 weeks ago on Talkin Nets, was an NBA restart on Martin Luther King Day, January 18th. That would be a 60-game season that would end the season in June, but the finals wouldn't end until around August 21st. And then the Olympics would be done. The Olympics would be done by then. So I think what the NBA is considering, number one, obviously what I know they're considering is money, financial loss. I saw someone like, oh, y'all bugging out over 12 games, or y'all bugging out over a couple weeks. Like, yeah, that's millions of dollars. They're definitely
It's actually
bugging out.
the figure is actually $1 billion.
That's $1 billion.
The NBA might lose.
Yeah. So they're thinking about the money, and they're also thinking about competing in the Olympics and their players being able to represent their home teams. I think it's going to go down. And we spoke about it last week. I said, yo, there's teams like the Knicks that haven't played since March 11th. So you mean to tell me that these guys have had 8-9 months off? They're ready to go by the time that comes around. And I just think there's a lot of talk about also like, yo, these guys need a break. No, they don't need a break. Like with Danny Green, the first thing I said was, bro, you can go home, right? We're not going to do another bubble. The season will start. You play in your home arena. There may or may not be fans. There might be fans, but you can go home and sleep in your own bed and be with your family and see your friends. And I just think it's going to go down. It's the type of thing where it's sneaking up on us kind of fast, and they have to make a decision this week. And I think 70% of people are leaning towards, yeah, we got to start it. And maybe they stagger the schedule a little bit, or maybe you see teams like the Lakers not, I don't know, they're going to have to play LeBron, but like maybe they don't play him so much in the beginning. I think the Lakers should want to run this back pronto. I think it's going to be a crazy month and a half, a little more between now and the start of the NBA season with the draft and free agency and teams reporting to camp and this starting up this fast. It's historic. I think it's going to be entertaining.
I am absolutely excited for it. It's going to be a lot of fun. But like you said, it all comes back to the money. It all comes back to the money. And think about who there are more of. There are way more players that are, playing because they need money. This is their job. They don't have that kind of stuff to just sit back on. Most of these players in the NBA, if you just look at it, are not, sitting on $20 million in the bank that they can just, wait on for a month. They're losing money, and the league is losing money. You're going to have to lose a lot of money like that. The league is not going to be able to pay full salaries. It's going to have that in mind going into the CBA, which might absolutely destroy your CBA negotiations if you actually refuse to play. But like you said, if LeBron doesn't want to play, sure, LeBron can sit out for a month. LeBron can do whatever he wants. He's like 80 years old at this point. He can sit out. Nothing's going to happen. That's all good. But the league wants to play. Most of the people, like you said, 70-some% want to play. The league itself, like the league office, needs to play. That's $1 billion after a season where they lost money because of the coronavirus, just like everybody did. And then they also got to worry about their brand exposure in the future. They want to make basketball the universal game. They want to make it into something as accessible as soccer, the way it has become across the world. Because, it's something like in soccer, all you need is a ball and a goal. In basketball, you just need a ball and a hoop. If they can develop it into that across the world, think about all the things that are going to change. And the best way to do that is to show off basketball on the international stage. And that's the Olympics. To continue the soccer analogy, I'm a big soccer fan, but Keith, you're not a soccer fan, but you know about the World Cup when that happens every 4 years. People watch the World Cup when there's FIBA basketball, when there's Olympic basketball being played, and when, we're, putting all of the best players on one court to show off and to show what they can do. It's going to absolutely grow the game. And that's something in the future that the NBA is worried about and has to worry about if they want to keep the current trajectory that they're on.
Yeah, man. The NBA leads and everyone follows. Literally everyone will have to follow this lead. The NBA is going to make the right decisions for basketball. They're going to make the right decisions for the business of basketball, the international business of basketball, and the players. And I, for one, can't wait for it to happen. As a Nets fan, I've been waiting for this season to start a long time. It would have been already started in another universe. So if they can get it started, 2 months after when it would have regularly been on, great, good. Let's get to it, because I'm also a low-life Cowboys fan, and the Cowboys suck, and NFL is over for me. So let's get back to the hoops. All right, last segment. What's on? Honestly, I watched The Mandalorian last week. That was cool. Hudson told you to watch the election coverage. I've actually been watching that, and it is cool. I've learned a lot and seen a lot more than I've ever learned. But this week, what I'm going to tell you to watch is Shams and Woj. Just watch their tweets, watch NBA Twitter, because information is going to start coming out this weekend. After this vote passes, some dates and some other things are going to start getting locked down. We're getting close to the draft. If you are an NBA fan, watch Twitter. Watch the guys like Woj, Shams. We follow Brian Lewis. Just NBA Twitter in general. They're going to start giving you the info. It's going to start getting closer and realer to the next season. So just pay attention to that. What do you got, Hudson?
Man, last week I told you to turn on the news. This week I'm telling you to turn it off. After this election finishes, I know I'm, exhausted from watching all of the news. And I like the news, actually, but it's all too much. It's too much stress. you just got to, take a second to breathe, to watch something that you like to watch, whether it's The Mandalorian, whether it's refreshing Twitter to see what Shams and Woj have to say. Just watch something else that'll get your mind away from things, for a little bit, just because it's a stressful time. Everyone's stressed out. And if you don't take a breath, the world's going to keep moving, and you're going to keep having things you got to pay attention to. So if you don't take that time to take a breath, you're not going to be able to keep up when Talkin Nets comes back and we cover the draft and we cover the NBA fall and free agency and the Nets trading for, Giannis or whoever it is next week. Because we're going to be there and we're going to cover it.
Yeah, man. We might even take next week off. I know John Boy and Jake are taking next week off for a much needed vacation after pushing through the 60-game baseball season. But like Hudson said, you guys should take some time for yourself to take a break from everything. I just did that in Pennsylvania over the weekend, deleted Instagram, deleted Twitter, deleted everything off my phone that could give me a notification so I could just go out there and live and be myself and exist in the present and not the digital space. So let's wrap this thing up quickly. I'm not even going to tell you to call the voicemail because nobody calls the voicemail. And I'm like motivated to get voicemails and voicemail episodes soon. So not getting any means I got to work harder and think about how to do that. So I'm not even going to tell you how to call or what the number is. I'm just going to put it out there that nobody calls the voicemail. I checked the voicemail and we're just not there yet. We don't have fans calling with stuff to say. But John Boy Media has fans. So make sure you follow the brand at John Boy Media, Instagram, Twitter, Facebook, YouTube, TikTok, wherever. Make sure you follow Talkin Nets, just Instagram and Twitter. We have a Facebook. I'm working on getting access to that. You can follow me on Twitter, but a bunch of people unfollow me because I hate Donald Trump. So don't worry. You don't have to, come through. Make sure you follow Hudson Flynn, though. Where can they follow you, Hudson?
You can follow me at Hudson Flynn _ on Instagram, Twitter, LinkedIn, all the platforms.
Yeah. And make sure you subscribe, rate, and review the pod. We're going to keep this thing rocking. We're getting closer to the NBA action. We're getting closer to the restart or the start of the season that we should already be in. And we've got you covered. We'll see you next week, the same time, right here, hoping that we get closer to being in the stadium. Let's go Nets. Brooklyn.